everyone. Welcome to D3 Technologies webinar, Fusion 360 Tips and Tricks for Multiple Fixture Setups. So today we're going to take a look at how to set that up. My name is Nick Narzinski, and here's my contact information. So let's go through these slides real quick. So our key learning objectives, we're going to be adding parts to fixtures. So we'll show how to take a simple part file, add the fixture, and create soft jaws within there. Then we create name views and section sets on that, and then show how to navigate between all of these when you're going back and forth between your model and your setups or your simulation. Before we get started, this is a re-recording. We unfortunately did not get the first live version recorded, so this may be a little bit different for those of you who may have been on there live, but I'll try to make it as close as possible. One thing I did bring up in that original was our Fusion Velocity program we put together. So this is a awesome value for you guys who are getting started with Fusion 360. We have many classes that are all part of this package, and you have access to all of them throughout the year. So it's a 1-year subscription to all of our live classes. It also gets you unlimited access to our tech support team. So that's call. We have a chat system as well as email. Excuse me. And then our Fusion hours. I think it's once a month. We get together for a day, and you guys can just get on there and talk about anything you want to talk about, basically, any maybe workflows or any issues that you might be having. So all of that is part of our package, and here's just a little bit on how our live training works. We have what we call CAD Live, which is live instructor-led virtual education. So you guys can attend at any of our D3 office locations. We have diverse class offerings, attend from anywhere. It is live instructor-led and hands-on exercises. So here you can see we have setups in all of our classrooms where you can see the instructor screen as well as the instructor, and then you'll have computers to work on as well. You can also, if you're not near one of our facilities, you can do live anywhere and attend this also. All we require is you have dual monitors, a decent internet access, a head cam, or webcam, and a headset. And then some type of way of communication, whether that's email address or you can ping in on our live chat system as well. But you'll be able to see each of the attendees, the instructor's work screen. You would be running a virtual desktop, and that gives our instructors the ability to come in and help you guys out if you have any issues during those hands-on exercises. So pretty neat technology, and it's very flexible for how you guys work or how you want to attend. So, with that said, let's jump into the software. That's all I have for PowerPoint, and now I'm just going to show you this workflow. So, let's open up this trigger guard part file. So, it's just a single part file. This is uploaded. It was created in another CAD system. We brought it in here, uploaded it. So you can see it just comes in as a single body. And what I usually like to do if I'm not going to program just on the part file and I'm going to bring fixtures in or bring any other part files in, is I would take that right click and say create components from bodies. This, instead of being a part file with multiple bodies, is now an assembly file. So you get that new symbol up here, and now it created that body into a component. So that component now has a single body inside of it. And what I'm going to do from here is create a second body that's going to represent the starting stock that we're going to machine from. So I'm going to activate. I hit that little arrow next to this and create a new body. And the way to do that, I'm going to click this top view. I'm going to jump over to the model workspace. And let me make sure. Yeah, I thought that was. I'm going to change this back to inches as our unit type. And then I'm going to create a sketch, and I'm going to do it on this top face here. Then I'm simply going to draw a rectangle in here. So I could do it from the sketch menu up here. Another thing I like to use is the S key on your keyboard. That is the key for shortcut, and it follows your cursor around. So no matter where your cursor is, you hit the S key, and you've got these tools right next to it. And this is workspace or contextual specific. So if I'm in the CAM environment, I have a whole different set of tools here. But what I can do from here is click on my rectangle that I have here. If it wasn't existing in there, something like project maybe, You just start typing it. Oh, that one was already in there. So projected surface, if I didn't have that already up here, you just hover over it, click this arrow, and now that's part of my toolbox. So S, rectangle, I'm just going to rough one in here, click the S again, dimension. Oops, dimension. Yeah, I had those lines highlighted already. And I want this to be 2.5 inches. It was still active, but that's all right. And this one's going to be 5/8. So once I've got that done, I could dimension it out, try to get it all centered up. I'm just going to eyeball it here for the sake of time. Finish that sketch, and now I'm going to extrude that. So you've got your right click menu, press pull. You could also come up here and do create extrusion. So I'm going to select that and closed an area. It also recognizes the starting face that we started the sketch on, so I'm going to select that as well because I want this to be a complete solid. So we're doing two-sided. I'm going to go a distance of 20 thou in the up direction, and I want this to be 1 inch thick material, so I'm going to say 1 minus 0.02. So you can do mathematical equations inside of these. And here's the trick. We don't want to cut this. We don't want to join it. We want this to be its own body. So I'm going to say new body down here. And then say OK. So now you can see we have two bodies with inside that one component. And what I usually like to do here is right click on, well, let's rename it first so we know what we're working with here. So we'll call this stock. The way I rename that is I click left on it once, and then I wait a second and click it again. Then you can type over it. And then I like to right click and say opacity control. We'll make this 90%. Now even with it turned on, if I go up to my main assembly, I can see through that stock. I can see the part file underneath there. Let's change that to, I think I went the wrong way there. 20%. There we go. All right, so now that we've got our stock and our finished product in here, next thing I'm going to do is add my fixture. So if I've got some fixtures in my folder here, I just copy that out of Autodesk. So if you go down to their samples, CAM samples project, you can come in here to work holding, and there's a bunch of different vendors in here. You can grab one of those fixtures. I used the Chick. Is that in here? Yeah, Chick work holding. So I used one out of there. If yours does not exist in here, maybe I'll put together another video on how to create these. But you can go to the manufacturer's websites, and a lot of times they'll have a 3D solid of the fixture, and you can just download that. So back to the project we were working in. That's not it. This one. I'll come into my fixtures folder, right click on it, and say insert into current design. Give it a second. So once that's done, you can, let's see here. I can see my part file. So I want to rotate this about 90 degrees. That way it's in line with my starting part and I don't have to move anything again afterwards. Then I'm just going to say OK. Now you can see here we have the symbol here telling me that it is linked to the original source. So right now, anything we do is going to be linked to the original file. I want to go ahead and just make a copy of this into here. So all you got to do is right click and say break link. Now it's got its own version within inside of my trigger guard file. Alright, so next thing I do, I'm going to activate that assembly. I'm going to come down here and find the base. So that's basically everything but the jaws. I'm going to right click on that and say ground. That way that part is ground, and my two jaws here are movable. I'll come back to the activate the top level assembly, and let's go ahead and constrain this into place. So I'm going to use these assembly joints. We don't want to update right now. So new joint. And I'm going to simply do, let's see here. I'll do this face at the bottom point. So I'm going to find that bottom face and find that midpoint of that edge. You want the plane in the correct orientation, and I'm going to align that with the top midpoint right here. And you can see it defaulted to rigid. Now all I have to do is put a little bit of an offset in there. So I'm just going to do this visually. I'm going to turn it around to that side. I'm going to come in here and drag this down until I'm pretty close so that I can machine down past the bottom of that part. So that's going to be my offset. I'm going to say OK. That part is now locked into place. Then I'm going to do a joint to move this face over. So for that one, I'm going to do a planar. So I select planar. I'm going to pick that face and that face. It gives us a little preview. Once I say OK, it's now locked into place. So face to face. So that's that side. Now the next side, we want to go ahead and create soft jaws for when we flip this part over. So first I need to put some starting stock in here. So I'm going to right click on my top level assembly and say new component. This is going to be my first soft jaw. I'm going to create a sketch right on the face of that. And then I'm going to project that face. Project. Click that face, say OK, stop the sketch. Right click, press pull. Let's make this 1/2 inch. And it is a new body. And we'll say OK. Then I'm going to come back up and activate my top level. And I want to right click, move copy on that part. I'm going to just move it over. Wait, let me go back. Let's redo that. Right click, move copy. We want component. Pick a point, create a copy. And then I can move that over a 1/2 inch. And say OK. So by doing that, you can see here, you know what, I screwed that up. I didn't want to make a copy of it because now the two components are linked. So if I was to come in and make a change to one of these, I could just make this a learning point. We'll just throw a quick sketch onto one of these. Or I can just do press pull. I'll move a face. You can see the other one moves with it. So those two are linked together. We don't want that because our part's not going to be the same on both of them when we cut it out for the soft jaws. So I'm going to back up a couple steps. I'm going to right click on it and say copy. Right click, paste new. Now when I move that over my 1/2 inch, you can see now it is component 7. It's no longer the same. We have a new file, and I can say OK. So now any changes I make, they're not going to be connected. The next thing I'm going to do is, this is how I want these three parts, or the jaw and both of these, laid out. So I'm going to go ahead and constrain those together. And to do that, I'm going to use a rigid group. Just by doing rigid group, clicking all three of those components and saying OK, those are now all locked together in place. So I don't have to go through and create two different joints. I just do one rigid group and those are all connected. Then I'll just go ahead and do a joint. We'll make this planar between that face and that face. Say OK, and all of it moves with it. So pretty quickly and easily, we created both those jaws. Now I just need to move this part over, flip it, and constrain it in place, and then I can start cutting those two soft jaws away. So I'm going to find my first component. That's the actual trigger guard. I'm going to right click on that, move copy. And this time I do want to create a copy. That way the original stays. I flip that one over, and then I'm just going to rotate it 180 degrees. And say OK. And let's go ahead and just move it. So right click again, move copy. I'm just going to grab that. Move copy. Grab this guy. Oh, I don't want the faces. I want the component. There we go. So I'm just going to get it close again. I need enough room to machine the flat because that's where we're going to machine to on the first setup. And then on the top view, that actually looks pretty good. So I'm just going to OK that. And I'm going to turn off our stock for now. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut out the soft jaws. So to do this, we're going to use the combine tool. So I'm going to go combine. So it's looking for a target body and a tool body. The target body, I'm just going to do the first jaw. The tool is going to be the actual finished part. And we do want to cut that away. And then say OK. And we do want to keep the tool actually. We want to make sure that part stays. Say OK. Now if I hide that part file, you can see it cut away exactly the profile of the part file. Let's turn that back on. Do the same thing again for the other side. Combine. My target body is the other soft jaw. My tool is the finished part. I'm going to keep the tool and say OK. Now the next step, I'm just going to right click on this and isolate it. Oh, I thought that was in the right click menu. If not, I'll just come over here and do it. So find that component, right click, isolate. Now I need to do a few things to get this ready because we can't slide it over these posts obviously. So first thing, I'm just going to highlight this and hit delete. Delete. Clicking it. I'm just clicking delete on my keyboard. And then I don't really want these fillets in there also, so I'm going to go ahead and delete all of those surfaces. Okay, that one looks good. Let's go back. We'll undo the isolate and isolate the other one. And for this one, let's see what we've got here. Yeah, again, I'm just going to click. I'm going to multi-click by holding Control down. Click a few of those faces, delete. Ooh, delete. Delete each of those. And then I'm going to come in and do the same thing to these. Oh, I didn't like it by a single click. So I'm going to highlight all of them at once this time. Hold down Control. Delete all those. The next thing you do, I might come in here and just sketch out a line across here and delete that as well by doing a cut extrusion. Something to make this slip in there a little bit easier. For the sake of the webinar, I'm going to skip that process for now. But you would probably want to create a little bit of a, because you got like a back angle there basically. So I'd probably just draw a line over and cut that down. That way the part would slip in there easier. Or we could probably just move this face down as well. Let's go and do that. That would work just as well. Right click, press pull. Let's see if I can snap it too. let's say edit face. Oh, there should be a way to move that down there. Let me try it with extrude. And for distance, we'll say 2. You know what? I'm going to do what I know. Let's just measure it. My distance here is 0.95. Click to copy to keyboard. I click it, close it. Now we can right click, press pull, Control V to paste, and that is going to be negative. And if I come over here and hold Control down and click the other face, it'll do the same. There we go. Alright, so now we can go ahead and let's unisolate that. Perfect. So now we got something we can slip in there and move those back together. So that's how I would create the soft jaws. The next step in my process. So we talked about, let's jump back to our slideshow real quick. Create a soft jaw. Now we're going to do name views and section sets and then do some navigating between those. So by default, there are some name views in here. Let's close the data panel. So this is just based off of your view cube. If you click between these, most of those aren't very helpful as far as programming. So I like to come in here and just create my own. So first thing I might do is line that up and then zoom in on the actual part that I'm going to be programming. Then all you got to do is right click and say new name view. I'm just going to call this setup 1. That's going to be my first setup. Then I might rotate the part, pan that around, get it centered, right click, and do another name view. We'll call this one setup 2. Oop. So by doing that, no matter what orientation you have, all you have to do is double click your setup, and it's easy to view both of those. So this part is fairly straightforward, but you can see on examples like the one that Autodesk has in the samples folder for this one, where you have a combination of multiple setups and multiple fixtures. Let's just expand some of this. So you can see you've got one in there for the second side. So there's quite a bit in here, quite a bit going on, and it makes it kind of difficult to navigate between the different setups for simulation and or in the modeling side. So what I like to do, like I said, is create setup view or named views, and then I also like to go in and create section sets. So I'm going to go back to my setup 1, and let's minimize our component here. So there's our first component, and there's our fixture. So I'm just going to hold down Control, highlight both of those, right click, and say create section set. By doing that, we get a new folder in here, and then I like to rename this. So this will be setup 1. Click outside there. You can see it puts a little 2 in parentheses, meaning there's 2 components within inside of that section set. So now I'm going to go over to my setup 2, and I'm going to highlight all of those components. So that's going to be the fixture and both the soft jaws. I'm going to right click there, create section set. It's real important to name these so that they make sense and they line up together. So I click off there, and there you see a 4 in parentheses, meaning there are 4 components within inside that section set. So now when I'm ready to go ahead and program this on the cam side. Again, in this one, it's not a big deal that they're all visible because you can kind of see everything that's going on and work in there. But when you get to examples like this and you've got a lot going on in different fixtures, maybe you're doing a turn part as well as a milled part, and you've got your chuck in there, and you've got other fixtures in there, all within inside the same assembly file. That's where it's real important to have these multiple setups. So the way to change between these again is going to be is to highlight the setup now. So I'm going to go setup one for the view, click this, right click, and say isolate. Now it's just the information I need for that setup. I can now jump back over to the cam environment, and I just have that stuff available. So here I'm just going to quickly create a setup. Let's see, my part file is going to be that. Let's expand. Component 1, let's pick our stock there. That actually looks good. Say OK. And I've got some templates in here. I'm just going to create a template and regenerate those. It's probably not going to be all the toolpaths that are needed. We would need to chamfer and drill. I don't have those in there. But you get the idea. I got the setup now. I got those in there. I can simply simulate that out now. Speed this up a little bit. And I just have the information on my window that I'm working with. That's the important part. Then when I'm ready to program and or simulate the second setup, all I got to do is go back to my cam workspace. I'm going to find my named folders, so name views, second setup, and then find my section sets folder. Oh, I'm still in my... I was wondering why it didn't show up. There we go. So second setup, and then that's for the view, and then for your section set, I'm just going to right click there, unisolate the first, right click again, isolate. Now we just have that information. Then we can come back to the cam, do our second setup, choose that part file, choose our stock, say OK, drop our template back on there, regenerate those. I'd probably want to add multiple step downs in here. And I'd obviously want to change my height so I'm not crashing into my fixture. So I'll just do heights, bottom height, do a selection, pick that face there. Horizontal looks good. Yeah, again, I'd have to change the heights here in this counter. Selection, pick that face. And then we can simulate that side. So hopefully that gives you guys a good idea of how to navigate in between and create those different views and section sets, as well as creating fixtures or dropping those into your part file and work with those and create soft jaws. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll bring my contact info back up. So here's my email and here's our phone number. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me about the Velocity program or any questions on this. And I look forward to next time, guys. Take care.